Recording.
I'd like to welcome everyone this evening. The 6 o'clock meeting is a workshop meeting. We will only be discussing the topic at hand, which is the sewer rates. We have guests this evening. I'd like to introduce you to Ruth Clemens, who is the administrator for the city of Aberdeen. Ruth, could you introduce your other staff, please?
Yeah.
That's with us this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Like Mayor Springer said, I'm Ruth Clemens. I'm the City Administrator for the City of Aberdeen. And with me tonight, I have Rick Sanger, who is our Public Works Director. Did you want me to just dive right in? Or?
I think so. Would you like to, well, you're probably good now, and so you can see that, is she
Can
going?
you turn on my sharing, please?
That's what I'm trying to do
I
here.
probably want to make sure that everybody can see this, or if you can't, you may want to move
Are
up
you on?
or move where you can see.
Try getting on again, Ruth. Sorry, I might have just kicked you off. Didn't mean
I'm still
to.
on.
Where are you on? here?
I'm the main screen.
Oh, okay. For sure?
Nope.
Okay.
Councilman Skinner, if you want to move to the other side of the table, buddy, there's some room if you want to see the screen.
You can go to
I'm
participant.
worried I crowd some of the audience out.
No, we all scooted down. Councilman Darcy has a spot.
I think
Yeah, there's lots of room.
Oh, hey, what the heck?
Come on,
Like in
Are
the
you
back
on?
row of the drive-in theater.
I just saw your neck cranked, man. I felt bad.
Yeah, that was not fair.
I can see what life's like on the other end.
Yeah, holy cow, I must be number 6 or 5.
So, I wanted to talk to all of you this evening and give you some information regarding our sewer agreement between our cities. So I will just dive right in. Okay.
And you may want to take notes on this.
So just to give you a little bit of background, and Rick, please feel free to jump in at any time to correct me, or if there's any other additional information you want to share. The contract period that we're wanting to discuss tonight, we had a 10-year contract with the city of Cosmopolis that spanned from 2013 to 2023, and that contract expired at the end of 2023. So currently we are operating on no contract at this point. The billing process right now for the city of Cosmopolis is one that we don't wish to continue into the future unless the city of Cosmopolis has different ideas, but we would like to move to a monthly billing process. But the current billing process is that for services rendered in year 1, you pay in year 2. So you're always kind of a year behind when you pay us, and we pay on a quarter, and we bill you on a quarterly basis. In reviewing the contract, which is one that is outdated, complicated, and has complex rate structures in it, Cosmopolis has been paying rates which are considered artificially low, meaning that the city has been paying about half of what the city of Aberdeen residents have been paying. I'm just going to dive right into our areas of concern. So for 2023, what is still owed to the city of Aberdeen is $121,794.
That's correct.
That is for a partial of third quarter and then fourth quarter. 2024 has not been charged yet. So we will be calculating those numbers once we come to some sort of agreement between the cities. Like I said, Causey residents are paying approximately half of what Aberdeen residents are. So Aberdeen residents right now pay about $70. Your residents, how our billing structure is, your residents are paying approximately $35. So the current contract, like I stated before, was unnecessarily complex and based on complicated formulas that don't necessarily fairly and adequately bill where your city needs to be. So we brainstormed, and Mayor Springer had given Tara Dunford, your contracted finance and accounting person, the ability to talk with us and to negotiate and to kind of come up, brainstorm some ideas of what we could bring forward to all of you for consideration. We want to recommend to all of you, and we'll put this in a formal letter to all of you, to pay the unpaid bill over the course of 5 years plus interest, low interest at that. Create a new rate structure. Our public works team, our city engineer, Mr. Sanger here and Kara looked at the current rates that the city has, because we wanted to make sure that it was fair and that the city of Aberdeen residents aren't subsidizing the residents of Cosmopolis. So we determined that the commercial customer rate was one that was most favorable to both, that was most beneficial to both. It would provide a rate that was fair to the Cosmopolis and fair to the city of Aberdeen, and it would bring Cosmopolis customers to the appropriate rate that would cover the monthly fixed fee plus usage and the 5-year payment period plus interest. So, and then we would also like to recommend to change the current billing structure from an annual billing structure to a monthly billing structure. So that, in a nutshell, is the information that I wanted to present to all of you. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. That's why I brought Director Sanger with me, who can answer any questions you might have as well.
I have a question. So on the proposed repayment plan in 5 years, you say low interest, do we have a ballpark interest rate?
Yeah, I think it would be between 1% and 2%. That's not something that I would necessarily come up with. Everything that we're bringing forward to you is subject to approval by the council.
Right, okay.
So that's what we
But we're
would-
thinking something that like is in pace with inflation rather
Right.
than. some sort
You know,
of-
I'm just thinking like, I know things have been tough financially here. I want to present an interest rate that's fair to both cities, so.
So I know this is overwhelming, complicated. You're probably wondering why we owe money with a big question. When I sat down, I didn't understand. Still trying to wrap my head around it, to be quite honest. So if you have any questions, please ask. Now is the time to do that.
So with the 121,000 we still owe, 2024 hasn't been billed. Is that 5-year payment plan 2024 and the 121 together?
Yeah, if we were to start today, yeah, it would be.
You won't have, I'm sure, our rates for the entire year yet, but do you have any projections on what we'll owe for this past year?
Well, interesting, because the contract expired in 2023, we don't have a contract in place for 2024. So whatever is decided moving forward will have to be based on 2024's, right? Because we don't have a contract in place right now for that.
Oh, okay, so that's interesting. I'm familiar with arrangements where, you know, you might have a contract expire and then you kind of continue to operate under the contract even if you don't have a formal agreement in place. But you're saying that we'll actually need to retroactively define the billing terms for the year?
Yeah, possibly. We might have to discuss that with our attorneys and see what they recommend. One of the things that's of greatest concern to them is that because there's no contract in place, there is this perception of gifting of public funds if we don't add interest to that. So I think that we can definitely discuss it. I would like to maybe allow all of you to, be able to discuss that and bring a recommendation back to us. At this point, we're negotiating a contract, basically.
So can you go back to the slide that had the commercial? We were discussing about
Yeah.
commercial.
Stop sharing. What's that?
It said commercial was the top title.
Okay, right. New rate structure, commercial customer rate.
Yeah, so are you talking about the commercial businesses here in Cosby? Is that what you're saying?
No,
Or
and
us as the city?
I can answer that. So we looked at three different ways. One was to bill each customer individually, same rate that we bill the city of Aberdeen customers. Another way was to bill the city as a one entity, one business, $172 a month, and assign a number to, based on ecology standards, what a household wastewater would be billed for. I don't remember how many gallons it was, but, and then we multiply that times the amount of accounts. And then where the issue comes up is the city of Cosmopolis has a system that is really a sieve. It is taking on a lot of I&I, which is called infiltration and inflow. So that would be a base amount of what you would normally think you would have to pay. But when it rains hard, you're putting in 10 times amount of water to the system that we have to treat that you should be. So that's where the problem, and this was, the way we came up with the commercial was because that treated as one customer, had a set amount, and then it also gave the city of Cosmopolis the ability to fix their I&I problem, which would drastically lower their bill as well.
So you say we have a problem with the amount of water that you're receiving
Yeah.
from is it like a road runoff or?
When it rains hard, we get 10 times more
Basically our
than
stormwater.
when it's dry.
Does this have anything to do with our pump station?
I'm not familiar, what pump station are you, Jennifer?
Our main one is on First Street.
That's the pump station that pumps into our system?
Yep.
Yeah, the I&I is coming from your collection system.
Okay.
So, we're battling the same thing in Aberdeen. It's a antiquated old system. Normally it's concrete line or clay lines. They are put in with rubber gaskets, and after 50 years, the sewer gases eat away at the gaskets, and now the groundwater, which is only 2 feet down there, goes in the sewer line, and we have to treat a lot of water that we shouldn't be, right?
What system is that you said that's, which pump system is it that you said is getting infiltrated?
No,
Not the first.
it's your conveyance system.
Conveyance system, okay. That's,
yeah, when we compared the numbers, like when we looked at the numbers from your winter numbers to your summer numbers, there were definitely increased numbers.
So when I met with Ruth, we went over and we looked at all three options. I mean, as I said, this has been, we knew this was coming, really trying to understand this. And so she showed me the numbers and the drastic increase in the rainy months is huge. And we all know our infrastructure, our pipes, our lines, there are issues here, big issues in the city. And so when we get the rains, that runoff is going through us to Aberdeen. And the numbers are high.
I should add that the three ways we looked at it was one is one customer, right? City of Cosmopolis with the volume. The other was as everybody individually, the amount. And the third way was on the old contract. And the old contract was written, 10 years ago, and it was based on capital improvement, the CIP. We had all this work that was coming up. So it was an artificial low number based on that as CIP work came out, this capital improvement project work came out, you guys were gonna pay 12% of the capital improvements, because that was about 12% of what the flows were that were going to the city. It's a really complicated system, but in the last 10 years, we haven't hardly done any capital improvements. So it's artificially kept your bill low. Well, unfortunately, the city of Aberdeen is doing $40 million worth of capital improvements at the treatment plant in the next 5 years. So under that old contract, it is 12% of 40 million. I mean, it's a big number. So that's why we ruled out that other contract, because it was so complicated, it was the most money. That was the contract that was in place for 10 years. It just was stayed artificially low because we did do a lot of capital improvements.
But now those
That makes
capital,
sense.
sorry, go ahead, Jeremy.
One of the reasons for my question about the pump is, my understanding is what we're talking about are relatively fixed rates, 1-to-1 for Cosmopolis residents versus Aberdeen residents. And so I'm just wondering, in terms of administrative overhead and things like that, are there contributions that Cosmopolis is making that reduce the expenses of Aberdeen? So, you know, for example, is pumping something that we are paying for, that we would be paying for in addition to?
I don't know Cosmopolis' system. I haven't been involved over here. I don't know much about it. I don't even honestly know how it is, where your pump station is, or I imagine it's one down there by the Quick Go. But that's just, all that is doing is it's pumping to a 1-point load system in our system. It's like, the way we compared it was somebody that has a house right next to where you're pumping into is paying more per month than the people that are pumping into it per month, right? I mean, I think it's even less than 50%, honestly. I mean, when we look at it.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand in terms of the overall picture.
Right.
You know, with the cost of maintaining facilities and things like that, you know, would it, in other words, would a one-to-one payment system where our citizens are having to pay the same sewage rates, but then would they also have to pay an additional fee to support our own sewer facilities?
That's what's happening right
So
now.
that would make it not
That's what's happening right now. So I think your citizens pay a pretty high bill already. My daughter lives in Cosmopolis and I've seen her bill. And it's pretty substantial. It's just that the city of Aberdeen is not getting a big portion of that. So,
Because half of that goes to, if I understand, to overhead.
To our,
So
how?
we are paying you, what, $35 a month. The rest was going to overhead, public work, and administrative.
So what, if we, you know, take on this one-to-one approach, does that include, the city of Aberdeen taking on some of that? So
I don't understand the one-to-one approach. Explain what you're getting at.
Sure, so just to simplify, you know, in the past, if Aberdeen residents are paying $100, Cosmopolis residents are paying, they're paying maybe $100 also, but only 50 is going to Aberdeen,
Okay.
50 is staying in Cosmopolis to
Right,
pay
right.
for our own servicing of the, you know, sewage system. If we move to a one-to-one, where we're paying, Aberdeen residents are paying 100, Cosmopolis residents are also paying Aberdeen 100. Now, they still have to cover that 50 to address the sewage services that the city of
Yes.
Cosmopolis is providing. So that's kind of where I wanted to see, you know, how is that gonna actually impact the cost of residents, you know, as we actually dig into this?
Significantly.
If we went to the single residence billing, then the residents are paying for their usage, not stormwater runoff. Would be reflected in their bill, and the city's got to figure out where the heck all the rest of that water's coming, all that wastewater's coming from that's infiltrating that system. Because that's not a true number. If we're saying that the stormy months we get more, that's not the residents actually using the shower more or the washing machine more or flushing the toilet more. Somehow and it's not your problem. I'm just saying, it's hard for our citizens to, and us as being citizens, to go, wait a minute, I'm using this many gallons. That's what I get charged waste on, is the amount of water that I use. A flat rate plus whatever that is, 1%, you know, close to whatever that is, usage.
Yeah.
And so the residents are out there going, hey, I'm cutting back, I'm doing my job, and yet the bill continues to go up because we can't figure out where all the water's coming from.
I understand your point you're trying to make. The problem with that is we don't have meters on any of the lines, and we don't know where the ionite is coming from.
Right.
And most likely, half of it or more is coming from private residences. There's every residence has a side sewer that goes under the house. And what we ran into in Aberdeen was people taking their caps off and draining the water from their lots into the sewer. And that, we have a constant smoke testing to find those. And that's what the smoke does, it blows smoke up through your vent. And so you can find those, but there's a lot, and they're really creative in the ways they build wet sumps and stuff to get that water in. So it's not all just a city infrastructure problem, it is also a residential problem. And how do we figure out how much is which? I don't know.
I would like to just put this out there that I know all of you are new. So this is not something that is a result of your leadership or anything like that. I mean, you guys are just the council that has to solve this problem. This is something that's been ongoing at your city. This has been a financial and accounting practice that's been happening. Your citizens are paying for something and they expect it to go towards the thing they're paying for. And so I don't know what your financial state looks like right now, but I just want you to know that like, this is just accounting practices that have been happening historically. And that you are the council that will be solving this issue. So
Trying to clean up a mess.
that will be cleaning up,
Thank you.
yes.
We are all very aware of that situation. So the question is, you're saying that Cosby pays half what Aberdeen residents pay, but is it not like based on like a population situation here? I mean, we're like less than 2,000 and you guys are what, 14?
17.
We have a,
So there is a massive amount of where there's a big difference there population wise. So how is it that it's a problem that we're not paying the same amount? Because we're tiny, you guys are obviously got more waste and water and population in general. So it would make sense that we pay less because
that's what's considered, that was all considered. You contribute, I believe it's 12 or 13% of what the city of Aberdeen's total waste is. So total effluent or influent that comes to the plant is 12% that comes from Cosmopolis. That runs through a meter at the Causey, Aberdeen, city limits. So we know how much is coming in.
And
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, I just want to get some additional clarity on that. So when you say our residents are paying, half of what Aberdeen residents are paying, are you estimating that based off of a per capita estimate, or is that based off of a flow rate?
Based off of the contract.
And your residents are paying in bill comparable to Aberdeen, right? I mean, we're not trying to say that they're not paying. It's just that the city of, what the portion that goes to the city of Aberdeen for what we're doing, for what we charge our citizens is about half. And that calculation was made by Tara, who is worked with us on trying to understand all this.
But sorry, again, I'm just trying to get to what is the data point that you're using to inform that comparison? Is it based off of the population differences versus the utilization?
So when we had our rate study done, that is the rate that came up. There's a whole bunch of, capital improvements or whatever goes into creating the rate. And that's how we came up with the $72. We didn't come up with it. We pay these rate study experts to come up with the rates. And that also builds in future costs for any kind of infrastructure replacements as well. Now, I think when we came up with the last rate structure, I don't know that Cosmopolis was included in it because you guys are operating off of a different contract. We did not, neither of us nor Tara created that contract. Those were from the former Public Works folks. So my assumption is that $35 again was taking into consideration future capital improvements that were supposed to be made to your system that didn't get.
Okay, so when we say $35, are you saying that's $35 per resident, or is this $35 per?
Probably ask Tara.
Yeah.
She's the one that came up with it.
Could I jump in? I can answer this one. This is Tara Dunford. So when I calculated the $35, what we're referring to when we talk about the $35, that's based on the 2024 bill that Aberdeen gave to Cosmopolis. That billing amount was $325,000 for 2023 usage. When you take that $325,000 and divide it by your 783 connections, we end up at a rate per month of $35. What that means is that Cosmopolis paid Aberdeen $35 per month on average per customer for the same services that Aberdeen residents paid $72 for. Now, the complexity here, of course, is that Cosmopolis needs to pay Aberdeen essentially the same rate that Aberdeen customers are paying, plus you also have your own administrative expenses on top of that.
Okay, thank you, Tara. That's kind of what I was trying to get at, is that rate determined by the number of connections, or is it based off of the amount of sewage that Aberdeen is having to process for us? And then from that, are the additional administrative overhead expenses that we provide, are they doing anything to alleviate costs to Aberdeen that should maybe be a factor in negotiating that rate per connection?
Yeah,
And
I think there's two pieces here. The one piece of it is what should Cosmopolis be paying Aberdeen? I objectively believe that the proposal to charge Cosmopolis as if it was a commercial customer of Aberdeen is a fair one. That cost is going to be substantially higher than what you have been paying. And when we say the billing rates have been artificially low, that's nobody's fault. It's the way that the prior contract was written, and it didn't do a very good job of leveling things out over time. So we need to right that issue first, and then the other issue you have is then you have your own costs on top of what you're paying Aberdeen for, and that's an unfortunate reality that your customers do pay two cities for services essentially.
Right, and I understand that, and then the prior contract had, these kind of capital improvement negotiations that were considered there that made sense at the time, but really would be unfair to us, actually, if we were to continue with that kind of agreement.
Correct.
But I think what I'm just trying to understand from a public works perspective is, the administrative overhead that the city takes on in the totality of these sewage bills. Are we doing anything that would otherwise reduce the cost to the city of Aberdeen on their behalf? And I don't know if the folks in the room would know that question. But generally, when I think, okay, well, we're having a one-to-one payment plan, I think, well, then our citizens should be benefiting from the same services, right? So if there's administrative overhead like billing, that's considered as a part of that. Well, citizens are paying the same. If our citizens are paying what Aberdeen citizens are paying for, then should our citizens be getting billing services from Aberdeen? Just as an example. And maybe that's not a fair comparison at all, but that's just what I'm trying to understand.
Are we paying for the same thing twice?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Much more succinct way of putting it. Thank you.
Yes, and when it comes to billing, then yes, I would say in some sense, that's a great point. Utility billing, yes, those admin staff that the process bills for Aberdeen are included in the rates that Aberdeen customers pay, and Cosmopolis happens to have its own billing staff, and obviously you have to do that again. So perhaps that's something worth looking into to see if there should be some sort of a reduction due to that factor. As far as the public works maintenance side, you have your own public works staff who do certain things. Are you paying twice for that or duplicating work? I don't know. That's really a public works operational question.
Okay, thank you. That's all I'm trying to get at, is if we are gonna be paying one-to-one, then we should be getting the same thing from Aberdeen. I don't expect the folks in this room to necessarily provide answers. I'm just trying to facilitate more fair negotiation as we explore all the financial, discussions, so.
Would Aberdeen be willing to just necessarily take on our billing?
The
So that we-
commercial rate states, we're billing one customer. That's the commercial rate. We're billing the city of Cosmopolis. We're not billing everybody. We're billing one. So there really is no admin staff tied to billing everybody. We're billing one customer, the city of Cosmopolis directly. And as far as the question about, are you paying twice? Unfortunately, you are, because we have a conveyance system in Aberdeen from the city limits that we maintain, and then treatment plant that we have to pay for the upgrades and to be, all the mandates through ecology. And you guys also have your conveyance system here that you are maintaining to get it to the city of Aberdeen. So, I mean, it's a crappy situation.
Yeah, and I'm by no means a sewage expert, thankfully, and no offense to those who are. But I leave that to, the public works experts to kind of sort out there are definitely things where I recognize we will have to pay twice, and that is just unfortunate for us, but it is the fair thing to do. But if there are, particular aspects of that agreement where we are actually paying twice for something because we're contributing a benefit, and then we're somehow double charging our customers for something that the city of Aberdeen isn't actually servicing for our residents the way it would for their residents, then I just want to make sure that that's included in the decision making.
So I think the point that you're getting at, if I'm understanding it correctly, is incorporated in the rate that Aberdeen citizens are being charged for their sewage is billing, right? That's a function of it. So that's including in that rate that we would be doing on our own. So that's something that maybe we shouldn't be factored into our rate. Additionally, I would think Aberdeen's rate would incorporate the labor and overhead associated with your entire system, meaning all of your infrastructure, all the pipes going to each individual house, the maintenance, the upkeep. If it gets broken, that's on you guys with your system. And I would assume that the rate that your citizens are being charged incorporate all of that. But the citizens of Cosmopolis wouldn't be using your entire infrastructure. We would be using the pipe from us to you. And then, yes, the entirety of this treatment plant, obviously, because how do you divide it up then? We're there like you're there.
Unfortunately, that's not how it works.
Okay,
Somebody that lives 15 feet from the treatment plant pays the same as somebody that lives, 4 miles from the treatment plant. It's a rate based on a quantity from a household. It's not based on how far away you are. So, I mean, that's the way it is. And as far as that, we keep going back to the administrative rate. What we're proposing is the best deal is one bill to COSI. We looked at billing, what would happen if we billed everybody in COSI? That was one of the considerations. But now, yes, we're taking on that bill, but it's substantially more money. I don't think there's any savings there.
I think my question there would be, so I'm assuming part of your overhead in the rate that you charge to Aberdeen citizens includes private billing. I mean, I'm a former resident of Aberdeen, so, when I get my bill from the city of Aberdeen, that's personalized to me, right? I'm not just paying from a bill that's going to the city of Aberdeen, right? So, that seems like it should reduce the cost to our citizens if you're just giving us one bill for all of our citizens, rather than, the thousands of bills that you give to the citizens of Aberdeen. So that is the kind of thing, and I would still expect that, even if we look at all of those things, we're probably still talking about like, well, maybe we're looking at, we're paying 95% of what per citizen than what Aberdeen citizens are paying. But I would just expect there are probably some aspects where, our citizens are not utilizing all of the same resources and infrastructure that the citizens of Aberdeen are. It may be most, it may be near 100%. But I just hope that as the folks who are engaged in that negotiation are really kind of looking into this, they'll be able to consider that in a more informed way than I can as someone know the details.
So current contract, like if we were to take 2024's numbers, the current contract that we have in place would cost the city of Cosmopolis $2 million. Like, if we took what we're proposing, the commercial rate, that would cost, your city, with the 2024 numbers, that would be $935,000. So that's what we're trying to, like, propose to you guys, is that the commercial rate that we're informing you of is.
And when you say the 2 million, you're including the capital improvement
Yeah,
projects
that
and
would
everything
include
else that
the
we would be
12%.
paying. And that's why
Right, and
that
that-
contract wasn't
Yeah, and that's
signed.
very fair. There is definitely, places where I can imagine if you all are doing a lot of capital improvements that we're benefiting from, but disproportionate to your residents, then I think that, that shoe fits on both feet, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely worthy of note in that conversation too.
And I go back to these gauges that we don't know, the flow out, the flow in. We've got to get a better, all of us, get a better handle on just how much we are pumping of wastewater compared to fresh water that we are receiving. There's got to be some tremendous amount of difference in the two of them, and that's got to be coming from somewhere. Whether it is Joe's decided to put himself a sewer in for his motorhome or drain his house, whatever it is. If we're seeing tens of thousands of gallons more so many months, it's not just coming from the residents. I cannot believe that it's just coming. We haven't had the problem of flooding. I don't know where these people, we say, are all pumping water from.
Basement.
In yours, you got water in your basement?
Hell yes.
Oh,
And I took mine out of the vent years ago, and it gets pumped out to the street now.
to the stormwater.
Yeah.
And how much of our stormwater is ending up in our treated?
Most likely, it's called INI, which is
INI.
infiltration and inflow.
Yeah.
So the infiltration part is, that's seeping in through conveyance pipes. But
Many.
the inflow part of it, and that's where the city of Aberdeen is battling right now. We used to be a combined sewer, so sewer and stormwater were the same pipes.
Yes.
And when we went to a dedicated sanitary system, well, there's still crossovers. We don't, they're underground, so you can't find them. We spent $250,000 on a TV van to try and find these things. And what's happening is, when the high tide comes in, at a certain high tide, it's like flicking a switch, and the flows will double. I mean, in certain parts, and we know it's infiltration or inflow, and we know it's coming from the river, but we can't find it. So right now, we've been mandated by Ecology to treat the whole total flow. Even though we know, at that peak flow, it's 90% rainwater, we have to treat it like it was raw sewage. And I mean, that's, it's crazy. It's an old antiquated system, and it was put in, a long time ago, and you guys are dealing with the exact same things we are.
We are.
It's just a fact for all cities across America,
Yes.
there's underinvestment and.
We have $1 million in the budget for next year to deal with INI. That's just not to fix it, to find it, $1 million.
Yes, as a citizen, I don't have a problem paying my fair share. I just want to know what that is.
Understood.
So-
What that is.
I heard I'm not sure who mentioned a council person. What would it look like if Aberdeen took over our sewer system? If you purchased our sewer system, and if that is a possibility. So we look at maybe eliminating what we owe, and we pay a rate that is equal to what Aberdeen pays. And then I would think possibly the purchase cost, we could invest that to help cover the overhead and maintenance. I don't know. This would be some discussion to really look at that. Is that something that,
We are, again, I mean, this is something your council would most likely have to discuss. We will take that back. That wasn't one of the options that were
Right.
presented, but we will
Right.
take that into consideration. We would have to look at the health of your system. So we'd have to have some sort of assessment done to it if we did go in that direction.
Do you know if there's a wastewater comp plan available? A wastewater comp plan will typically say what condition the system's in, where the repairs are needed, those types of things. I don't know anything.
I'm gonna have Jen speak to she's on new public work, but she's been doing a lot of work.
It's very new and now
I've
under
been
the
searching
spotlight.
through stuff, records, and I don't see anything recent. Everything, we're just now getting into some things, so we'd have to.
Ecology to it.
So this is an interesting course of discussion. Yeah, the council would have to vote to even
Correct.
explore the idea, but, yeah, I'm just curious, if you're in the market for a bridge and a sewer system, what,
Probably the process would be for the council to make a motion on the floor to request the city of Aberdeen to look at and analyze
right,
the issue. I would think that would be, that way it gets out to the citizens too, and nobody feels like we're sneaking something.
Yeah.
right, and we're not in session right now, so,
Right, right.
but, so I'm just asking out of curiosity, what interest would the city of Aberdeen even have in purchasing a sewer system permit for the city?
That's a good question.
Could I like maybe get my neighbors to buy
It's a-
my toilet or?
It's a revenue stream, right? It's a revenue
That's what
stream,
it is.
but it's in bad shape, right? We know it's getting a lot of I&I. That also gives us an opportunity to look at using our infrastructure, our Q's van, our staff that's good at we bought, $200,000 worth of flow meters to try and find this I&I. It allows us to use those and maybe reduce it too. I don't know. It's really a hard thing to answer, being not prepared for that.
But we will, we heard you and we'll take that back as a suggestion to consider. Yeah.
Any other discussion
We'll
tonight?
trade you for a dam.
Yeah. Looking different
So this was
Straight
it.
across.
Yeah, this was I really want to thank you both for coming over, the good discussion. We may ask you to come back. I think we have a lot to digest to the council. This is not going to be a simple problem we're going to solve. It's been going on for a long time and it needs to change. And we have to do what is best for the citizens of this community. And so we probably will invite you back. Oh, there's another question.
Sorry, what percentage of the sewer that leaves our city goes into your system?
I think it's 12.5%. It's between 12 and 13%, I believe, typically on average.
Okay. Again, I want to thank you very much. You're welcome to stay for our council meeting. I'm sure it's not going to be as exciting as yours, but.
Not as exciting as they used to be.
Yeah, so thank you,
Thank you for
Rick.
having us.
And thank you. And Jen, would you like to catch up with Rick before you leave?
It's 6:42 for folks that are online. If you're planning on staying for the council meeting, I will go ahead for now and stop the recording and pause the meeting. We'll be back joining you at 7 o'clock.
On the, Casey, we'll be on the same Zoom link.
Yes, it will remain the same, Brett.
Thank you.
I'd like everyone to stand. Chief, will you lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under indivisible.
Thank you. Please be seated. I'd like to welcome everyone to our council meeting this evening. I'm going to call it to order. This is Mayor Springer. It's Wednesday, October 16th at 7 o'clock, and I call the meeting to order. Clerk Barr, will you please do roll call?
Councilman Skinner,
Here.
Councilmember Wynn,
Here.
Councilmember Colette, Councilmember Spargo,
Here,
Councilmember Darcy, all here.
Okay, moving on. Approval of agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting?
I'll move that we approve tonight's agenda.
Councilman Spargo seconds.
Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of approving the agenda say aye. State your name, please.
Kim Skinner, aye.
Jeremy, when I.
Okay. Moving,
Aye.
Aye.
any opposed? So passed, moving on. Public comments tonight. We will open the floor for public comments. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Please state your name, your first name, and please, again, limit it to 3 minutes. Seeing no public comment, we will move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion
Please
to
state,
approve the consent agenda.
please state your name. Is there a second?
Councilman Colette seconds.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none discussion, all those in favor of approving, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Committee reports, auditing committee.
I myself have not been in to audit the voucher.
Councilman Darcy, I did go today.
Any,
No problems.
okay. Moving on to parks committees.
No meeting at this time. It's coming up at the end of the month, last Wednesday of this month. We will have a posting regarding location.
Okay. Moving on to public safety.
We have not had a meeting since our last city council meeting.
Public works.
We have not had a meeting since the first meeting of the month.
Okay. We had a meeting early October. This month, we are having 2 meetings. So just a reminder to citizens online, we are having 2 meetings a month. And so the council is meeting, as they did mention earlier in the month. City official report, Clerk Carrie Barr.
We are ongoing with the audit. It's taken up a bit of my time, but that's okay. Auditors will be on site tomorrow. Today I had a fairly long Zoom meeting with them, mostly to go over current controls of how we do things. We looked at cash receipting today. Tomorrow they will be looking at backup. I've been getting numerous reports and information for them out of the system that they require. Overall, I think it's going well. We're able to provide them with everything they need. Tara has also been helpful. She's not online anymore, but providing them with last year-end stuff. And just as a reminder, this audit is 2022 through the end of 2023. So it's not for this year. In 2 more years, we'll be audited again from 2024 to 2025. Also working on budget, quite a few things in the system to get kind of aligned. New people coming in, people that were helping, some things weren't posted correctly. So there's been a lot of correctional work that's had to happen to get things lined up for the budget. For department heads, Chief Lehman, I believe I showed you kind of the outline of your budget today. Chief Valley, I will also be sending you yours, and we can absolutely go over and discuss. I've taken my first stab at it and made notes. You're completely welcome to make your own notes. And when we do get to that portion of budget presentation, I would like you guys to own your budget and to present it, but I won't give that to you cold. We'll go over it before.
Okay, thank you. Chief Lehman.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. The police services contract that you approved last month went to the Aberdeen Council. They approved it.
Chief Green is waiting for things to be signed on his end, and he'll forward it to me, and I'll bring it in for Mayor Springer to complete, and that should be finished. As I reported at last council meeting, we have a large number of vehicle trials. I'm happy to report that a suspect was identified. Officer Bailey actually located him and has made an arrest. He's not yet been charged with our crimes. It's a this return, but it closed out a number of other calls for service for other agencies where there was probable cause for the same individual, and as well as some phone warrants from work we did or to get some of our physical evidence back from the crime lab. Aberdeen responded to 9 calls for service in September under our contract. And the only other thing I have is that Reserve Officer Jeff Seaman, who's been with us for over 10 years, is going to be retiring as a reserve and leaving us down a little bit. But I have begun a background on a new reserve officer that's already state certified that is interested in coming on board with us. So that's all I have for today.
Thank you. And Aberdeen, do you have anything you'd like to report this evening?
I have nothing to add.
Okay.
Agree.
Thank you. Chief Valley?
Thank you. Tomorrow is the Great Shakeout. So tomorrow you will hear the Ahab siren, the whole alert broadcast is here in town. It's going to do the full wailing sound, not the Westminster chimes like you usually hear the first Monday of every month. You should have gotten an alert today on your phone from the County Emergency Management. If you didn't, I do have some flyers on how to sign up from that. That's the best way for us as public safety agencies to notify you guys for emergencies of just about any magnitude in the city that we need to notify citizens. People to do that. People online can go to the Great Suffolk County Emergency Management to sign up for those as well. So Great Shakeout is a great opportunity to, it's an earthquake preparedness drill internationally recognized at 10/17 on 10/17, practicing your earthquake readiness, drop cover and hold on. Since we are, most of the cities within a tsunami inundation zone, what does tsunami evacuation route look like for you individually? And just think general preparedness as far as earthquakes. In 2 weeks, so on October 28th,
Well, real quick question.
Yeah.
Just curious, what is the significance of 10/17?
So it's 10/17 this year. How they schedule it is the 3rd Thursday of October at whatever the date and time lands is when they do the date lands is what they do the time. So since this year, the 3rd Thursday is 17th, it's going to be at 10/17. So last year, I want to say it was the 19th, so it was at 10/19 today, so the 3rd Thursday month of October.
And for citizens online, it is on our website, so you can go there and also get the information how to sign up.
Sounds good. October 28th, at about 7 o'clock in the evening, residents may notice down at the Cosmopolis Elementary School, we're going to be doing a joint training with Lifelike Network and Great Suffolk Fire Districts 15, so our just south of us. We're going to we're hoping to land a helicopter in the at the elementary school that evening. If the weather's not good, we have an alternate date on that Saturday. I think those are my only 2 updates.
Thank you, Chief Valley. Building official Bill Cedar.
Something I forgot at the last council meeting was that with the appointment of the new members on the Board of Adjustment, we've already had a variance hearing last month. Both those 2 variances were approved. We've got another one coming up next week at 5:30 on next Wednesday, the 23rd. And it looks like I'm probably gonna have another one coming in November. So moving along on that. Another item, we need to look at our fee schedule. So we need to look at bringing forth a resolution to change some of the fees and bring us into today, now, instead of years past. variance, one of the things is the variance is only $150, which barely covers, well, doesn't usually cover my time and barely covers the posting in the Daily World. So we need to look at raising that fee and then looking at some of the other fees. That's all I have.
Would that be like our permit fees? They look substantially lower than what they should probably be compared to.
The current fee schedule for building permits is based on the 1998 fees. But we're not the only ones that use that fee schedule. County uses that too and everything. Aberdeen has raised their fees. But through the years, as far as for new construction, there's twice a year in February and in August, ICC puts out a revised fees or schedule that shows what the dollar value would be based on square footage. So if you're building a new house and houses cost more money, it's now gonna cost, I think that's, I don't know, I'll just throw out $150 a square foot. It could be less than that, could be more, based on what you're gonna do, but that's what the fee schedule is based on. So even though we're using 1998 figures, they still, your cost to your building, your permit is gonna be up there more.
Are these numbers that you could work out to what they should feasibly look like for us to see what those would look like compared to speaking what we have now, but it could.
I started that back, probably 10, 15 years ago. And so I've got something in the works.
Good.
But yeah, one of the biggest things is mechanical fees. They don't even cover my cost or the gals that used to be in the office, it didn't even cover their time to issue the permit. So those fees need to be raised. Plumbing permit fees is currently we use $7 a fixture. Well, a lot of them, like Aberdeen, I think it's $11 a fixture. So, yeah, there needs to be some adjustments like that.
Yeah, so there's something that feasibly work on to present.
Yeah.
Cool, that would be great. That would be really helpful to see it.
Yeah. Kim?
I guess maybe Sue just asked you will come to us with a proposal of what you think fees should go up.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, folks, this is Chris Coker. I was just gonna chime in. Bill will do the lifting on that because he's the expert in that arena. And then he'll give you guys the numbers that he recommends. And then ultimately I'll prepare the resolution and goes from there.
Excellent.
Thank you, Chris.
I have a question for Chief Valley, actually. I just thought of, so you referenced the tsunami evacuation maps, and those are posted online?
Tsunami evacuation maps?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're available. There's Everett County Emergency Management's website. There's a tsunami map portal on there, and there's also different. So there's a walk map for Aberdeen, Oakland, Cosmopolis combined.
Is that not on our own website?
No.
Do we not have-
It's not.
Do we have-
Do we provide any kind of guidance to citizens on what I guess how much time they have to get to an evacuation area?
That's included on those walk maps. You can really see where you're at. First wave arrivals anticipated, and that's when you talk tsunami, we plan for a 9.0 cascade destruction zone earthquake. So worst case scenario, where you're looking at where the nation goes and shaking, and we're planning for no bridges, no roads. So that's why we use a slow walk pace of about 2 miles. So that's what that's based off of. It will show you where you're at. It'll color shade it as far as if you're in, how much time it's going to take you to walk to high ground versus how much time for the first wave to arrive to you. So it kind of gives you an indicator of maybe you need to bump it up a little bit higher than a slow walk as far as that
This can't do much.
Picture really good.
And that's why, you know, the concept of it is a slow walk pace. If you hit a crosswalk and it turns white, not green, and you can cross the crosswalk prior to it turning a solid red, you're walking at faster than a slow walk.
Remind me, do we have a presentation for citizens on, disaster response plan and,
As far as the city goes,
yeah,
not that.
is that something we could potentially arrange?
You should.
Do you work with,
Huh?
do you do anything like with the elementary school, having any routes planned with them, coordinating, you know, testing it out? Any
So
of
as far
those
as
drills?
the city, or as far as the city's involvement in school,
You, the fire, because aren't you like part of the response team as far as evacuations or something happens or whatever? That's part of falling in the fire department.
part of it,
So is there any coordination with the elementary schools, or there's like, you know, any drills around any of that?
so they're required, their recommendations on to do an annual, you know, it's a requirement from OSPI. So that's, I believe, and I remember this one specifically, but I believe that's why they have a bus park there whole times. You know,
Do not.
so I believe that's part of their evacuation.
And coming from the school district and of the gentleman in office that also works, yeah, that is all through OSPI. They are mandated and they do practice those every year.
Even at the county level, we don't coordinate a lot with schools. State, it's much higher regulations for schools as far as.
Right. I imagine, my background in education, that the schools have their own, procedures and plans. And I was just curious, do we have, well, I think it would be a really great thing to do for our people if we, prepared them and, kind of showed them what the escape routes are for tsunami.
Thank you.
If that happens, I will, I probably won't be able to give a bunch of guidance at the moment. I'll be too busy running for the hills.
Well, thank you, Nick.
Sorry,
Okay.
No, I was just gonna say, years ago, there were signs put up throughout the city and all the cities, tsunami signs, directing you which direction to go.
Congratulations.
Yeah, the school is directed to go up, Milford Drive up on the Holly, up in that hill area. And then, likewise, everybody else, Altano, Franklin Drive and all those areas. That was put in, I think, when I did the hazard mitigation plan back in 2005, and now it's been updated since then. The county did that for all the cities.
And those signs, we've been doing inventory regarding the signs, and those signs, the tsunami signs are in still good shape. We did order extra ones, and they were free, and so we took advantage of that. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cedar. Public Works, Jennifer Mandich.
First thing is the water leak on 4th and E Street. It's repaired. We've got an ADA accessible ramp that was installed. It's up to code now. Asphalt was removed. It got repaired today. I haven't looked at it because it was dark by the time I came back. So I'll check it tomorrow. So we should be able to move the barriers and stuff and have it back in working order. Storm drain maintenance and cleaning, we're still doing it. Just want to remind the citizens not to blow the leaves and yard waste into the street because it clogs the storm drains. And there's a recurring beaver dam at the end of 3rd Street. We've taken it down 3 or 4 times already. We went out last week and completely took it out, and as we took it out, we found 3 more dams right next to it. We took those out.
Busy beaver.
Yeah, exactly. And so every other week, we're looking to what we're gonna have to take out. So, we're looking at finding a licensed trapper with permits to remove the beavers, so we don't have to keep going in there. There's a few spots, but that one spot is really bad. We're getting ready for the colder weather. I saw some nighttime temperatures next week early, you're gonna be in the 30s already, so we're getting the salt truck ready. all that stuff. The plow is ready to go. Want to remind citizens, I guess there were a lot of water breaks last year. Check your pipes, see if you can insulate them or wrap them. It's getting to be that cold time now. Mill Creek Tennis Court painting is done. Now they're pressure washing the asphalt so they can put a new top on it. And the next step with the restoration grant is repairing the upper restrooms there by the tennis court. So this next week or so, we're gonna go in and see what we need to do. Check the pipes, see if they're any good and how we can get those running again and up and running. Last thing is the Mill Creek Dam. We had a state dam inspector come out yesterday morning for the 5-year inspection. The inspection went well. There's no concerns with the dam. There's some brush and such that we need to clear out. And we're putting together a customized inspection plan for that specific dam so that we can have regular inspections. It'll be obviously more often during the rainy season. We'll be down there looking at it. That's it.
Thank you, Jennifer. I really don't have a lot tonight. Just basically, as far as the 4th and E Street leak, that did start on October 1st. That was a Tuesday. As we looked at how to repel that leak, that rapidly increased. One of the first things that we thought about was safety for our public works staff. And so that, as Jennifer said, has been repaired. We had Roglins involved. Aberdeen did come over, but they were not working on site. Is that correct, Jennifer?
They came over, they used the Vector truck to clear the debris and water out so we could see where the leak was.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then, so we had Roglins on site, and then we do have a water system specialist with a community water system. He is our lead water specialist. Anytime we have a leak, he has to be notified, and he did monitor and did water samples to make sure that there was no contamination to our water. So everything is up and running. Thank you. Tom was down in the ditch. And our new guy, Kristen, got down there. Jennifer was driving the dump truck, hauling things away. So it really was a team effort. We confirmed moving forward, Aberdeen will be there to assist. And then our community water system, he will be notified whenever there's a leak. And also he can be there if needed to assist in repairing the leak moving forward. And I think that will be, as far as expense, will be probably a more favorable way to go forward with this at this time. So that's really all of my report this evening. Is there any new business? We do actually have new business. Councilman Nguyen, your proposal tonight for the meeting?
Sure, it's old new business. I think this is the 4th or 5th time we've talked about it. But council previously requested that we provide more of a visual layout of the changes that were proposed to the agenda format. And I don't know if folks, if the packets in the front have this, but.
Yes.
Okay, they do. Yeah, so if you turn to the page that says presented by Councilmember Nguyen, I didn't put this together. This isn't what I sent you, Carrie. This looks much better than what I sent you. So someone did some magic somewhere to make this legible. Thank you. So I will provide a quick explanation of the benefits of the proposal, but I also just want to preface this by saying that what I'm proposing isn't like a really radical new idea in terms of running a council meeting. I've been in other state and federal council and task force meetings where they use similar sort of formats, so I don't think it's anything revolutionary, but to kind of sum up the differences, you'll notice it's just changing the order of a few things on the agenda. The exception to that is a little bit different is it breaks up the new business section into a discussion period, followed by public comments, followed by a voting period for the new business. And the purpose of that and putting that closer to the end, is that citizens get to come in and listen to all of the folks who are gonna inform them about the agenda meeting items before their public comment period. We've had in the past, a lot of folks come in and, you know, they see something on the agenda like, well, like this item, for example, meeting agenda order change, and they don't know what the details of that are. Or it might be, you know, next time it might be related to the sewer billing. But without knowing any of the details, they're not really well equipped to voice public comments that are gonna sway the council's decision, right? They might have really insightful things to say, but they're not given a chance to know what we know and what we think. They might also use their time to try and sway us to vote a certain way when we're already gonna vote that way. And so, but they haven't had a chance to hear from council yet about those things. So it's really, you know, the goal is to make this more transparent for citizens so that they have all of the information before there's an opportunity for them to make public comment, and then for them to make that public comment before we actually vote on things. And so we have an opportunity to benefit from their insights and their wisdom before we cast that final vote. Let's see. And then, you know, we do add council comments at the end. That's in case any public comments, you know, we want to address, you know, these are council meetings. They're for city council to engage with the public and make decisions. So I personally feel really bad when citizens come up and make their public comments at the very end, and then we just walk away and don't have a chance to respond to some of their concerns. I think those are the main reasons for the changes here, but I'm happy to discuss a little further before we make a motion. Are there any questions or concerns?
I'll raise, of course I will. I don't know, I'm the old adage of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. My understanding of how this business meeting works, the council's business meetings works, is that we'll come in and prior to that meeting, we have set an agenda. Our clerk from the previous meeting, whatever it is, we brought items up. They will now be voted on the following meeting. Now they have been put onto the agenda, they've been approved, and now it is time to do the business on those agenda items. I think where we've made a mistake in the past is bringing motions forward, making changes when we should bring the idea, the motion forward, and then vote on it a following meeting so that they do have time, a month, to ask their questions by contacting us through email, phone calls, coming to the meeting, whatever it is. And then prior to, in this first part up here where we tell them they can comment on any part of the agenda items, that's where they get that opportunity prior to us doing a vote. And then, just as long, like you're saying, that can help us have a better understanding of if we do it this way or we don't do it that way, because now we have heard them all month long contact us, plus have their opportunity to do it here.
Yeah.
I just don't want to end up bringing a sleeping bag to this meeting. And when we open it up, these workshops that we have prior gives anyone the opportunity to come in. Tonight was here all about the sewer ideas, and as it goes forward, they could relate those ideas they have to us as council. Next meeting, we might have it ready to sit down and say, here's a proposal, we will bring it to you, and next meeting, we want to vote on this. It is putting our business out. We need to be more efficient and get our business done the right way in the first place. But I just don't want to turn this into a long night question and answer period. When we have audiences like this, we ain't got a problem. But we know what we dealt with in the first 3 months of the year, and at this budget concerns, it could be turning into, again, listening to a lot of people that have legitimate concerns, but not all in one night.
Well, and I think that's, so I think there's truth in what you're saying. We shouldn't be, generally raising important voting topics and voting in that same session.
Right.
But I think what we found is that in some cases, this process is broke, because sometimes we do have to make decisions quickly. And very often, citizens aren't coming to meetings regularly. They're coming when they see that the topic of concern is on that meeting. So they don't come to the meeting before where the discussion took place. They come to the meeting where it's going to be voted on. And so they're either showing up to the voting meeting in a huff and feeling underinformed, but upset or confused, or they're coming to the initial meeting and then not coming to the voting meeting. So I think that that is a good practice and we should do it. And I don't think anything about the proposed changes here prevent us from doing that. But in the situations where we can't do that, I think that this will prepare us to operate with a little better transparency. As far as, the sleeping bag comment, I completely agree. And I think that this doesn't necessarily change much there either. Certainly we might get a few more public comments, but it's not turning this into a Q&A.
Yeah.
Either. This is public comments, and then council can make some comments, but then that is the end of the meeting. We had a suggestion from a former council member to add a Q&A section to the end of the agenda. And for that exact reason, I was advised that maybe we shouldn't do that. So, the Q&A section isn't there for the exact reason that you mentioned.
Yeah, and I have a tendency to agree with Councilor Skinner as far as if we're having to vote on something, I am not into it being presented to me that day, and then I'm supposed to just vote on it. I don't like that swift action where there is not a chance for it to be out to the public, the ordinance, which it should be there on the agenda, which it wasn't this last 2 weeks, it wasn't on the agenda. And so we shouldn't technically have voted on it, but it gives the people the chance to see what the ordinance is, and then they could email us or any of us, and then we can be their voice to bring back any concerns around that ordinance at the next council meeting. And that way there isn't like this, it just seems like it's
Right, but
presented in Zoom.
I do want to point out that we have a history of doing that. This change protects citizens if we do that. It means that we can't vote on something without having them have an opportunity to provide comment, as we have in the past, which has caused a lot of distrust and frustration from citizens. I do agree that as a practice, we shouldn't be creating those situations at all. That's why even when I originally proposed this, we didn't vote on it that day. I said we should vote on this in the future and we should be discussing beforehand. So 100% agree with you that is what we should do. But I do want to just point out that this change protects citizens if we fail to do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of them out there that, they don't have internet, they're not Zooming, and, they're on a slower pace of getting the information that we're presenting to them. And so I think giving them, the time frame to be able to gather, that information, then I think it's beneficial to them where they feel like they're not being left out in the process. Which I think I've heard a lot of comments in the past years that they feel like, that things are just happening and they don't know about.
Yeah, and that really was the impetus for the proposed changes, is a lot of comments from citizens saying they did not feel heard, they felt that we weren't listening. And in some cases, it wasn't that we weren't listening, it was that the order of the agenda format meant that we couldn't demonstrate that we were listening. I would be happy to explore, some other process or by which we, formalize that practice of discussion at the prior meeting.
Yeah.
I don't know what that looks like, but we could certainly do that as well. I think that would be an additional layer of protection of the public trust that would be worthwhile.
Okay, Councilman Skinner again. Ordinances, resolutions, and those, if I'm not mistaken, cannot be all taken care of in one night anyway. They have to go back out to the public before they can be voted on. So they're proposed, and then it's giving a period of time before if I go back through MRSC and read that, those don't allow us to make those kinds of decisions in one night.
Yeah.
Okay, we can make a decision in one night whether or not to make an emergency fix. The mayor can actually, in some cases, do it on their own. They don't even have to come to us. But there are certain decisions that we can make in the evening that, and then if we have a problem with that and we think that there's more that needs to be discussed about it, we table that issue. We've done that. We just gotta start following a little bit more rules, all of us, myself included, of how the operation of the meeting itself works. I think we can become more efficient. That helps those people, the citizens, understand better what we're doing. Again, we're all brand new at this. We all are trying to learn as we go. After the clerk redone your first page and rendition, this, I understand, and I don't think this is a bad deal. I just get nervous about what we're gonna open up if we start letting, or people start thinking it is a question and answer.
Sure. And I think you raised a lot of good points about the way that we conduct business. And I want to also add to that one of the ways that I think we don't conduct business effectively is sometimes we're not willing to try something new when we have the power to just reverse it if we try it and decide we don't like it.
Sure.
And that holds here too. If we try this and it doesn't work, it's just another simple vote to change it back to the way it was or make another correction. But that goes not just for this, but for other things that we've kind of, stymied ourselves on. I think sometimes we need to just, be willing to take, I wouldn't even say a risk, because sometimes the changes that we're talking about are really very minor.
Right.
And be willing to accept that sometimes we need to do incremental improvements and be willing to accept small progress that's maybe imperfect progress. But we try to do things a little bit better each time, and and we learn from that process as well.
So
I've yapped enough.
I don't know if I'm allowed to make a comment, but I will. Just so that you guys know, I did provide on the last page of the agenda, Cosmopolis Municipal Code and Rules of Governing Meetings. It's section 2.04.020. Item number 6 is what lists out by code how we're supposed to do our meetings. Item 7 is a little more ambiguous to me, and I'll read it. It says, the order of proceedings prescribed in subsection 6 may be suspended or changed for the time only by a majority of vote of members. Now, I don't know if that means one time for a specific meeting or for all time.
Yeah, and we have done that before.
Yeah, and
Right.
our rules of governing meetings also have 3 RCWs that apply within those also. And that's where most of this, that's where that particular one, and it also says that we set the rules for how it runs.
Yeah.
And so it can't be a Q&A if we don't allow it to be a Q&A. So we are allowed by the state to mandate how the council meetings, because they are our meetings.
Right.
They're not, the people get to attend and they get to have a voice, and that is in the RCW too. But that voice is how we let that happen. So it can be comments, and if it feels like it's a Q&A, then we don't need to allow the Q&A. We get to govern pretty much how that happens.
That's exactly right.
My only point is that if it is a permanent change, should you decide that, it will be an ordinance
Right.
update.
So that is what I submitted. There is an ordinance, and I've submitted that to the council with the changes, and they do, it is essentially that item that you asterisked on that page, and it just reflects the proposed meeting order. So we had originally presented it as the language, and everybody looked at that paragraph and thought, I have no idea what I'm looking at. So that's why they asked for that visual layout, which looks much better. I think makes much clearer what we're proposing that we do.
Are we ready to vote?
We get a motion in a second, didn't we?
Is there a motion to approve change to the meeting agenda format?
Some motion.
I'll second the motion. Tim Skinner.
Is there any further discussion?
Anybody else?
All those in favor of approving the agenda change format, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none. Motion to approve change to meeting agenda format. Moved.
Council comments.
Sorry, Mayor, real quickly, that was an ordinance, correct?
Yes, it is.
It needs to be a roll call.
Okay, thank you,
Oh, okay.
Mr. Coker. Okay, please, say your
Councilman
name.
Skinner votes yes.
Councilman Nguyen votes yes.
Councilman Spargo votes yes.
Councilman Colette votes yes.
Councilperson Darcy votes yes.
So approved. And moving forward, okay? Council comments at this time?
I got one. Tomorrow for the shakeout, chief, is the truck gonna be out, or are any of your guys gonna be out there with all the kids on the street walking up the hill?
That's not the plan, no. It's the school walking up the hill.
Yeah, I just figured with the volunteer fire department, I mean, it'd be nice to have your presence out there. I know the kids would be tickled pink to see the fire truck, as they're going up by the museum, and I think they're heading up towards, the mansion up there. I think that's their route they're going.
Okay, that's something we've looked at.
I was just curious if you guys are gonna be out, how the kids get when they see the big truck, flashy lights. It's always nice to see your guys' presence out there in the community. I had some fee rate questions, but they kind of already got answered, so I'm good there. I appreciate it. If not, I'll catch you at City Hall and we'll chat.
Yeah.
So besides that, that's all I have.
I would like an agenda item for next meeting. Of course, we've scheduled something for November, but we'll wait for that later. I would like to put on the agenda next meeting to have, see if we can schedule a meeting with Engine Company number 1 to go over the proposal for the continued leasing, I guess is what it is, of the museum property, museum itself, and then go over the insurance, vehicle insurances, utility bills, the taxes, all of that. When we just had a workshop, we're going to be really shocking our citizens. We should try to find every little bit of savings we can. And in having conversations with a few of the people from Engine Company, they were receptive to redoing and renewing the 5-year, 10-year lease, whatever it is, and probably, from my understanding, picking up some of their own bills. So I'd like to get a meeting scheduled with them.
Thank you, Councilman. I would also like to engage in that conversation, having spoken with some of the folks who are maintaining that space right now. I understand they have some proposed ambitions for the space as a city resource. I'd be interested to hear what they have to say.
Sure, yes, yeah.
I just want to say that I was part of the dam inspection yesterday and it went well. And I just want to say Jennifer and Christian both were there and they've got a big list of things to do. And it's going to be challenging, but they feel pretty confident that, they're going to get it all handled. And yeah, it looks pretty, it's going to be a long haul, but it was a good experience and everything to see what exactly that needs to be done up there and everything, so, yeah.
And thank you for attending that.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments this evening? Okay, moving on to public comments. Seeing none, okay. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
May I for just a quick second?
Oh, yeah.
I know it's completely out of line. I meant to.
Oh,
bring this
thank
to
you.
my report, and I literally just slipped my mind. This is going to be on display at the post office, and there's also some available at City Hall for people who want to pick it up. I forget which council person made the suggestion of just trying to post and help educate the public. So, hopefully it's big bold letters people can read, but if you could help get the word out and even encourage somebody to stop at City Hall and pick one up if they need one or want one with emergency contact phone numbers. I know it's the day and age of the internet, But even today, several calls for service came in via our office, one of which was a very time-sensitive attempt to locate on a possible DUI. And the person was well out of town by the time it got to me because it went through our voicemail to the office. So just to reinforce that, that non-emergency number or 911 when appropriate, to get the right phone number called without a clerk to answer it, forward it, it would be wonderful for us. So thank you. I'm sorry for.
No, not at all. In fact, you know, we have an information table in, in City Hall. I think what we will do is that we actually will put those on the counter when people come in to make payments and have it very visible there and share that with them when they come in. Thank you, Chief, for
Thank
doing
you. It
that.
was a good idea from the council. So
Yeah,
thank
the
you.
post office seems to be like, we all have,
meeting place.
we all have to go there, so.
Well, hopefully this week it'll be-
Yeah, last but not least, happy birthday to.
Oh, yeah. Happy birthday there, Mayor.
Thank you. I have to tell you, it's an honor to serve this city. Both my chiefs are amazing. They go out of their way to find funding for their departments. They go above and beyond. My public works, we're new. You're doing an amazing job. Council, you're engaged. I appreciate that. And thank you for the citizens online and for those who attend. And thank you, Aberdeen, for your continued support and partnership. Okay.
And our, council, as a present to you, will not sing you happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. So is there a motion to adjourn?
Councilman Spargo motions to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Councilman Colette seconds.
We are adjourned. Everyone is dispersed.
I don't know, maybe we need roll call.
Thank you,
vote?
everybody, for attending.
Thank you for attending.